Have you ever wondered if your dog truly loves you, or if you're just the one who fills the food bowl? It's a question that crosses the mind of almost every dog owner at some point, usually in those quiet moments when we catch ourselves watching them sleep, or when they turn away from us to chase something more interesting, and we feel that tiny sting of rejection. We look into those eyes, deep, soulful, seemingly infinite, and we wonder, do they really feel what we feel? Or is this bond we cherish simply a biological exchange, a transaction of food and shelter for companionship and obedience? Here's the truth, and it might shake everything you thought you knew about your relationship with your dog. Most dogs don't show love the way we think they do. The wagging tail, the excited jumps, those enthusiastic greetings that make us feel special, that light up our day when we come home exhausted from work, those can be for anyone. Any stranger with a treat in their pocket, any visitor who speaks in that high, friendly voice dogs find appealing, any person who radiates the kind of open, welcoming energy that dogs instinctively move toward. Dogs are, by nature, social creatures. They evolved alongside humans for thousands of years, learning to read our faces, our tones, and our body language better than any other species on Earth. And part of that evolution meant developing behaviors that humans find endearing, behaviors that ensure their survival by making us want to keep them around. So yes, tail wags can be promiscuous. Excited jumps can be distributed democratically to anyone who seems friendly. But there are secret, almost hidden signs that dogs reserve only for the person who means the most to them. Signs that go beyond the surface-level excitement and tap into something deeper, more profound, more sacred than a wagging tail could ever express. These are the behaviors that reveal true attachment, genuine emotional bonding, the kind of love that isn't about survival strategy or learned behavior, but about genuine connection between two souls who have chosen each other. And if your dog shows even one of these rare behaviors, it's proof you're not just important in their life, you're their entire world. Think about that phrase for a moment, their entire world. Not just a significant part of it, not just the person who provides food and shelter and occasional entertainment, but the gravitational center around which their emotional universe orbits, the sun in their solar system, the fixed point around which everything else spins. That's what we're going to explore together over the next hour. And I promise you, by the time we finish this journey, you'll never look at your dog the same way again. Over the next hour, you're going to discover 10 powerful signs that reveal when a dog has truly chosen you, not just bonded with you in the way they might bond with anyone who feeds them regularly, not just grown accustomed to you through proximity and routine, but chose you in that deep, almost mystical way that transforms a pet into a soulmate, a companion into family. Some of these signs will surprise you. You might have witnessed them 100 times, maybe even every single day, without recognizing their significance. They've been hiding in plain sight, like secret messages written in invisible ink, waiting for someone to hold them up to the light and read what was always there. Others might make you emotional. You might find yourself tearing up as you realize your dog has been declaring their love in ways you never understood, in a language you didn't know they were speaking. Years of devotion suddenly crystallizing into clarity, like looking at a familiar painting and suddenly seeing details you somehow missed before, and one of them, sign number 7, might just change the way you see your dog forever. It's the kind of revelation that shifts your entire relationship, that makes you understand something fundamental about the creature sharing your home and your heart. The kind of knowledge that once gained cannot be forgotten, that colors every interaction you have from that point forward. These aren't the obvious gestures everyone talks about. These aren't the behaviors dog trainers emphasize in their manuals, or the actions highlighted in every pet care guide you've ever read. These are the quiet rituals, the sacred moments, the invisible declarations of love that most owners walk right past without ever noticing, like walking through a museum with your eyes closed, missing masterpieces hanging on every wall. They're the whispers in a world that only hears shouts, the subtle languages spoken beneath the noise of everyday life, underneath the obvious barking and jumping and tail wagging that we typically associate with canine communication. But once you learn to recognize them, you'll never look at your dog the same way again. Every glance will carry new meaning, weighted with significance you never perceived before. Every gesture will reveal layers you never knew existed, depths you never thought to explore. Every ordinary moment will become extraordinary, charged with the recognition of what's really happening beneath the surface. You'll start to see the architecture of love they've been building around you, brick by invisible brick, day after ordinary day, through actions so subtle you mistook them for randomness or habit. If you've ever questioned whether your bond is real, whether your dog feels what you feel, whether this relationship means as much to them as it does to you, this hour is for you. Most owners spend years, sometimes an entire lifetime, missing these signs, never realizing their dog has been shouting "I love you" in a language they never learned, never thought to translate, a language older than words, more honest than any human declaration, more consistent than any promise we might make. Understanding this could transform every moment you share with your dog. It could turn ordinary evenings on the couch into profound experiences of connection. It could make morning routines feel sacred rather than mundane. It could help you see that your dog isn't just going through the motions of daily life. They're actively, constantly, persistently building a relationship with you that rivals any human bond in its depth and sincerity. So let's start with the very first hidden sign, and it might surprise you how simple yet how profound it really is. Imagine this scene with me. Paint it in your mind's eye with as much detail as you can muster. It's late evening. The house has settled into that particular quiet that only nighttime brings, that special quality of silence that's not really silent at all but filled with small sounds, the hum of the refrigerator, the subtle creaking of the house settling, the distant sound of cars passing on a nearby street. The day's chaos has faded like a wave retreating from the shore. The demands, the decisions, the endless stream of tasks that filled every waking hour, all of it has receded into memory, leaving only this moment, this present, this now. The television murmurs softly in the background, its blue glow painting shifting shadows on the walls. Maybe you're reading a book, your eyes tracing lines of text while your mind drifts in and out of the story, or scrolling through your phone, that endless feed of other people's lives and opinions and carefully curated moments. Or maybe you're just sitting in the comfortable silence that comes with exhaustion, your thoughts wandering wherever they will. Your dog curls up beside you. You feel their warm fur brushing against your arm, that familiar texture you'd recognize blind in a dark room. Their breathing gradually slows, sinking into the rhythm of rest, that particular cadence that signals the day is done and sleep is approaching. You might reach down absent-mindedly and stroke their head, feeling the soft ears, the warm skull beneath the fur. They might sigh contentedly, that deep exhale that dogs do when they're settling into comfort. And then, without warning, without any obvious trigger, without any change in the environment that you can perceive, they roll over and present you with their back, their spine, their shoulders, the vulnerable landscape of their body turned completely away from you. To the untrained eye, to someone who doesn't understand the secret language dogs speak, it almost feels like rejection, like they're ignoring you, like they've decided your presence doesn't matter enough to face. You might even feel a small pang of disappointment, a tiny sting that you immediately dismiss as silly. Did I do something wrong, you might wonder? Are they upset with me? Did I pet them too much or not enough? Some owners report feeling hurt by this behavior, interpreting it as their dog literally turning their back on them, choosing to face away rather than maintain that connection they thought they had. But in the secret language of dogs, in that ancient vocabulary that predates human civilization, that was being spoken when our ancestors still lived in caves, this is the ultimate act of faith. Let me explain why this seemingly simple gesture carries such profound meaning. By turning their back, your dog is exposing their most vulnerable side, and I mean that in the most literal biological sense possible. Their spine, where all their nerves bundle together like electrical wires carrying signals to every part of their body. One injury to the spine and they could be paralyzed, helpless, unable to run or hunt or defend themselves. Their spinal cord is essentially their information highway, and it's protected only by vertebrae and muscle, with no backup system if it fails. Their organs unprotected by the thick muscle and bone that guards their chest and belly. The kidneys, the liver, the lungs from behind, all vulnerable to attack, all essential for life, all exposed when they turn away. Their neck, that crucial pathway between brain and body, protected only by skin and a layer of muscle. One bite to the neck from a predator, and it's over. Every wild animal knows this. Every prey species has nightmares coded into their DNA about teeth closing on the back of their neck. Their very life, in its most defenseless form, offered to you without reservation. They're trusting you so completely that they can sleep in peace with no fear, no vigilance, no keeping one eye open just in case, no maintaining that state of alertness that keeps animals alive in the wild. Think about that for a moment. In the wild, no animal turns their back on another unless they trust them absolutely. It goes against every survival instinct evolution has programmed into them over millions of years. Predators attack from behind. Danger comes from blind spots. Survival depends on maintaining awareness of everything around you, on never leaving yourself exposed. When a wild dog or wolf turns their back, they're making a calculated decision that whoever is behind them is trustworthy enough to guard their blind spots, that their packmates won't hurt them while they're vulnerable. Your dog is making that same calculation every time they turn their back to you, and the answer they've arrived at, through observation and experience and some deep instinct they can't articulate, is, "You are safe. You will not hurt me. I can drop my guard completely in your presence." Science backs this up in ways that might astound you, in ways that transform this simple gesture from charming habit into biological imperative. Studies from canine behaviorists at the University of Veterinary Medicine in Vienna, one of the world's leading institutions for animal behavior research, where scientists have been studying dog-human bonds for decades, found something remarkable about dogs who sleep back-to-back with trusted humans. They measured cortisol levels. Cortisol, as you might know, is the stress hormone, the chemical your body releases when something is wrong. It's what floods your system when you're anxious, afraid, or uncertain. It's the biological signature of danger, of threat, of things being fundamentally not okay. When you're stressed at work, your cortisol spikes. When you narrowly avoid a car accident, cortisol floods your bloodstream. When you're worried about money, or health, or relationships, cortisol is there, coursing through your veins, keeping you alert and anxious. It's useful in short bursts. It's what helped our ancestors run from predators. But chronic stress, chronic high cortisol, destroys the body over time. It weakens the immune system, raises blood pressure, disrupts sleep, and causes all manner of health problems. But these dogs sleep with their backs against their humans. Their cortisol plummets. Their bodies relax at a cellular level, their nervous systems shift from alert and scanning for danger to safe and capable of deep rest in ways that can be measured in blood chemistry. The numbers don't lie. When researchers drew blood samples from dogs sleeping back-to-back with their owners versus dogs sleeping alone or facing their owners, the cortisol levels told a clear story. Turning their back produces measurable biological calm, and at the same time, their oxytocin rises. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone or the love hormone, is the same chemical that floods a mother's brain when she holds her newborn. It's what creates that fierce protective love, that sense of unbreakable connection, that feeling that you would do anything, endure anything, sacrifice anything for this other being. It's released during hugs, during intimate moments, during experiences of genuine emotional connection. It's the chemical signature of bonding, of attachment, of love in its purest neurological form. In other words, that simple act of turning away is actually a biological signal written in the universal language of neurochemistry. I feel safe with you. You're my family, not just my friend, not just my caretaker or my food source, my family. The deepest category of belonging that exists in a dog's emotional vocabulary, triggering the same chemical responses that define the most important relationships in any mammal's life. Think about it from a human perspective for a moment. How many people in your life would you feel safe enough to sleep back-to-back with, without even opening an eye, without any part of your conscious mind staying alert, monitoring, checking to make sure everything is okay? Probably not many. Your spouse or partner, perhaps. Your children, if you have them, though even then parents often sleep with one ear open, listening for any sign of distress. Maybe a sibling you grew up with, someone whose presence has been woven into your sense of safety since childhood. The list is short because this level of trust is rare. This level of vulnerability doesn't come easily to humans. We've been hurt too many times. We've learned to keep our guards up, to maintain some level of vigilance even with people we love. For dogs, this gesture carries even more weight because unlike humans, who have locks on their doors and alarm systems and the security of modern life, dogs evolved in a world where sleeping meant vulnerability on a primal level, where letting your guard down could mean not waking up. They don't do this with strangers. They won't turn their back on someone they've just met, no matter how friendly that person seems. The instinct to keep watchful, to maintain visual contact, is too strong with unknowns. They don't do it with acquaintances, even people they see regularly, people who visit often, people they seem to like. They don't turn their backs. They might sleep in the same room, might curl up nearby, but they keep their eyes on the periphery, maintaining awareness. They save this quiet, wordless gesture only for the one they trust above all, the one who has earned, through patience and consistency and gentle handling, the right to see them at their most vulnerable. In the old world, long before leashes and living rooms, before breed standards and dog parks and veterinary medicine, dogs or their wolf ancestors were guardians of their packs. They slept back to back with their pack members, not for warmth alone, though body heat certainly mattered on cold nights, but for something far more crucial: mutual protection. One watched while the other rested. One kept their senses tuned to the dangers lurking in the darkness, while the other allowed consciousness to fade. It was a wordless contract, older than language, more binding than any human agreement. If danger comes, I'll face it first. I'll sound the alarm. I'll give you time to wake and prepare. That instinct didn't disappear when wolves became dogs, when wild animals became domesticated companions. It only transformed. What was once pure survival strategy softened into something more tender, but no less meaningful. It became love. When your dog presses their spine against yours today, in your climate-controlled home with locked doors and no predators for miles, they're honoring that ancient contract. They're fulfilling a role written into their DNA across thousands of generations. They're not pulling away from you. They're not rejecting your affection or growing tired of your company. They're building a shield, a mutual defense system, a partnership that says, you watch your side of the world and I'll watch mine. Together we're complete. Together we're safe. They're saying, in the only way they know how, you can rest now. You can drop your guard completely. You can surrender into sleep without fear, because I'm here. I've got the door. I've got your back, literally, and you can trust me with your unconsciousness. Think about it poetically for a moment. Two heartbeats, facing opposite directions, protecting each other's blind spots. You, the dreamer, lost in whatever narratives your subconscious spins, vulnerable and unaware. Them, the sentinel, tuned into sounds you'll never hear, alert to movements you'll never perceive, keeping watch while you journey through sleep. It's a formation, born from trust so old it's etched into the deepest parts of the canine brain. Pre-verbal, pre-rational, pure instinct refined by millennia of evolutionary pressure, where the packs that trusted each other survived and the ones that didn't perished. And here's something most people never stop to consider. Dogs don't guard everyone. Even in a big family with multiple people moving through the house, dogs often choose one person, the person they feel most responsible for, the person whose vulnerability matters most to them. The person they've decided, somewhere in that mysterious process of canine decision-making, is worth this level of commitment. If that's you, if your dog chooses to press their back against yours instead of facing the room or sleeping separately, it means your dog has silently promoted you to a role that goes beyond pet ownership, beyond the simple transaction of care for companionship. You're not just their human, you're their responsibility, their charge, the thing in this world they've decided is worth protecting, even when there's nothing obviously threatening to protect you from. Now picture another scene, one that probably happens in your house multiple times a day, so frequently you might have stopped consciously noticing it. You're walking to the kitchen for a late-night snack, your mind half-focused on whatever craving has pulled you from the comfort of the couch. The house is quiet, everyone else asleep or absorbed in their own activities. You're moving on autopilot, following a path your feet could trace in the dark. Or maybe you're heading to the bathroom for the third time tonight because you drank too much water before bed and your bladder has become insistent. Or perhaps you're just moving from room to room, following those aimless paths we all trace through our homes, propelled by restlessness or boredom, or the simple human need to move. Suddenly, there's your dog sprawled out like a furry roadblock, positioned directly, almost surgically in the exact trajectory you need to travel. Not beside your path where you could easily move around them, not near your destination where they'd be out of the way, but directly, precisely, unavoidably in the middle of where you're trying to go. You stop short, maybe stumble slightly, adjust your path. You look down at them lying there, taking up maximum space, seemingly oblivious to the fact that they're creating an obstacle. At first, it feels like stubbornness. Really, you might think, of all the places in this house, you had to lie down right here, right now? You sigh, maybe feel a flash of annoyance. You step over them, careful not to trip, maybe even mutter something under your breath. Come on, buddy, you're in the way. You might have even interpreted it as passive-aggressive behavior, especially if you're rushing somewhere or carrying something. Are they mad at me, you wonder? Are they punishing me for not giving them enough attention? Is this their way of making me acknowledge them? Some owners report frustration when their dog consistently blocks doorways, hallways, staircases, all the choke points where passage is necessary and going around isn't an option. But here's the hidden truth that changes everything, that transforms this seemingly annoying habit into one of the clearest declarations of attachment your dog can make. Dogs don't block just anyone. When they plant themselves in front of you, when they choose that specific spot that guarantees interaction, they're not saying I'm in the way. They're really saying something far more vulnerable, far more emotionally laden. Don't forget me. Don't walk past me. Don't let this moment pass without acknowledging that I exist and that I matter to you. I want to be part of your every move, even the mundane ones, especially the mundane ones. Think of it as a soft barricade of love, an insistence made gentle through the language of position rather than sound. They could bark, they could whine, they could make noise to grab your attention, to interrupt your forward motion with sound instead of substance. Many dogs do exactly that, filling the house with vocalizations designed to redirect human attention, but instead they make themselves impossible to ignore through sheer physical presence, through the undeniable reality of matter occupying space. You cannot proceed without acknowledging them. You cannot simply walk past as if they don't exist. Your path must alter to accommodate their presence, and in that accommodation, connection happens. In wolf packs, those ancient family structures that still shape domestic dog behavior despite thousands of years of genetic separation, blocking or stepping into the path of another pack member, isn't random. It isn't about dominance or territorial control. Ethologists, the scientists who study animal behavior in natural contexts, have spent thousands of hours observing pack dynamics. They've watched wolves in Yellowstone, in Canadian wildernesses, in those rare places where these magnificent creatures still live according to the old rules, the old instincts, the old social structures. And they've observed something fascinating. Subordinate wolves often use this blocking behavior as a way to initiate social interaction with the pack leader or with wolves they want to bond with more deeply. It's not aggressive. It's not a challenge to hierarchy. It's actually the opposite. It's a request. A physical question asked through body position. Will you acknowledge me? Will you spend time with me? Will you include me in whatever you're doing next? Am I worth your attention, your time, your awareness? In domestic dogs, this meaning carries over with remarkable consistency across breeds, ages, and individual personalities. When they stand in your way, when they position themselves so you literally cannot proceed without addressing their presence, it's an instinctive invitation to connect, to pause in your forward motion, and remember that relationships exist in the present moment, not just as background noise to our busy lives. Research published in the journal Applied Animal Behavior Science, one of the premier publications for evidence-based understanding of animal psychology, where scientists from around the world share findings from rigorously controlled studies, shows something striking about dogs who engage in this behavior. They administered what's called the Canine Attachment Scale, a psychological assessment tool that measures the depth of bond between dog and human across multiple dimensions: separation anxiety when the owner leaves, attention-seeking behaviors when the owner is present, physical affection displays, social referencing, looking to the owner for guidance in uncertain situations, and several other factors. Dogs who actively position themselves in their owner's space, even blocking movement, even creating what could be perceived as obstacles, demonstrate significantly higher attachment scores across almost all these dimensions. The correlation is strong enough that researchers now consider this blocking behavior a reliable indicator of deep emotional bonding. In simple terms, it's science's way of proving what your heart already feels, even if your conscious mind hasn't quite articulated it yet, even if you've been interpreting this behavior as annoying rather than affectionate. Your dog is glued to you, emotionally and physically, not in an unhealthy, codependent way where they can't function without you, but in a way that speaks to profound bonding, to the kind of attachment that psychologists consider secure and healthy, where proximity to the attachment figure brings comfort and safety. Now picture yet another scene, this one perhaps even more intimate, even more subtle than the last. You're sitting on the couch, settled into that particular comfort that comes from being home, being relaxed, being off duty from all the demands of the day. The weight of the world has lifted, temporarily at least, and you're in that rare state of simple existence without pressing obligations. Maybe you're lost in your phone, scrolling through that endless feed of other people's lives, their achievements and vacations, and carefully curated moments, comparing your reality to their highlights. Maybe you're reading a book, transported to some other world through nothing more than arranged words on a page, your imagination painting scenes the author only sketched. Maybe you're watching television, your eyes following whatever drama or comedy or documentary has captured your attention, your mind half engaged and half wandering. Or maybe you're just staring into space, thinking about nothing and everything, letting your thoughts drift wherever they will without trying to control or direct them, enjoying that rare luxury of mental aimlessness. Suddenly, you feel it, a small, deliberate paw pressing gently against your leg. Not a scratch, those sharp nail drags that clearly say, I need something urgently, pay attention now. Not a shove, that forceful push that demands immediate response. Just a soft, intentional touch, Pressure applied and held. Weight transferred from their leg to yours. Contact was maintained for several seconds. A physical question mark against your skin. You look down and there's your dog, paw raised and resting on you, eyes looking up at you with what seems like expectation or hope or simple desire for acknowledgement. To many owners, it seems playful or random, one of those cute quirks their dog has developed. Oh, that's just Max being affectionate, you might think, or that's Bella's way of saying hello when she's bored. You might pat their head absent-mindedly and go back to whatever you were doing, treating it as a momentary interruption rather than meaningful communication. But for dogs, that single tap is a message louder than any bark, more articulate than any whine, more clearly intentional than most of their vocalizations. It's saying, in the clearest way they know how, I trust you. I need you. Look at me. Be with me. Right now, in this moment, I choose you, and I want you to choose me back. It's not just cute, though it certainly is that. It's biological, it's neurochemical, it's a physical trigger for one of the most powerful bonding mechanisms known to mammalian science. Researchers at the University of Tokyo, that same institution that has given us so much groundbreaking research on animal cognition and emotion over the past few decades, conducted fascinating studies on physical contact between dogs and humans. They measured hormone levels before, during, and after various types of interaction. They used blood draws, saliva samples, and other biological markers to track what happens at a chemical level when dogs and humans touch, and they found that when dogs make gentle physical contact with their owners, and this specifically includes these soft paw taps we're discussing, something remarkable happens at a chemical level in both species. Oxytocin levels rise, and not just in the dog, which would be interesting enough on its own, but in both the dog and the human. The chemical change is mutual, reciprocal, shared. Let that sink in for a moment. Your dog is literally using their paw to trigger a chemical cascade in your brain. They're physically altering your neurochemistry through nothing more than touch. They're hacking your biology, in the most beautiful way possible, to create biochemical bonding. Oxytocin, as I mentioned earlier, is the hormone that mothers release when bonding with their newborns. It's released during childbirth, during breastfeeding, during those early weeks and months of intense mother-infant attachment. It's what creates that fierce protective love, that sense of I would die for you, that feeling of connection so deep it seems to bypass all rational thought and tap directly into something primal and powerful. It's the same chemical released during intimate moments between adult humans, during sex and cuddling, and those quiet times of physical closeness when barriers dissolve and two people feel truly connected. Think about that for a second. Your dog is literally using their paw to trigger the same chemical pathways of love that connect a mother and child, that bond romantic partners, that create the deepest attachments humans are capable of forming, and it goes even deeper than the chemistry, though the chemistry is profound enough on its own. Behaviorists who study canine social behavior note that this pawing is rarely used with strangers and is almost never directed toward people the dog doesn't know well. Watch your dog carefully. If they're the type to do this paw tap at all, and you'll notice they're incredibly selective about who receives it. Guests who visit your home don't get the paw tap, even if your dog likes them, even if your dog is friendly and social and happy to see them. They might get tail wags, might get playbows, might even get excited jumping, but not this gentle paw press. The veterinarian doesn't get it. Even though your dog sees them regularly, even though the vet might be kind and gentle and treat your dog well, there's no paw tap on the examination table. Even family members who live in the house might not receive this gesture with the same frequency or intensity. One person gets it regularly, consistently, almost daily. Others get it rarely, or never. It's an intimate gesture reserved only for those who sit inside the circle of trust, the innermost circle, the sanctum of your dog's emotional world, that sacred space where only the most important relationships live, like a child tugging a parent's sleeve, that small but insistent gesture that says, I need you to pay attention to me right now. Your dog is reminding you that your attention is their greatest treasure, not food which any human could provide, not toys which come from a store and could be bought by anyone, not even the walk they love or the treats they beg for, pleasurable as those things are. Your attention, your awareness, your presence focused specifically on them, with no distractions, no competing priorities, no part of your mind elsewhere. In a world that constantly pulls our attention in 1,000 directions, work emails pinging at all hours, social media notifications demanding immediate response, the news cycle that never sleeps, our own racing thoughts about past and future, your dog is asking for something radical, something increasingly rare in modern life, undivided focus, even if just for a moment, complete presence, total awareness. The gift of your full attention, unmediated by screens or worries, or the endless mental chatter that characterizes human consciousness. You close the bedroom door behind you, step into the hallway, your bare feet or slippers quiet on the floor, and before you even reach the kitchen, before you've walked more than a few steps, there they are, the sound of nails clicking against the floor, that distinctive rhythm you'd recognize anywhere. The shadow is always at your heel, faithful as sunrise. The presence that follows wherever you go, like a furry satellite orbiting your personal planet. Sometimes you laugh at the predictability of it, the way they materialize beside you no matter how quietly you try to move. Sometimes you sigh, especially when you're in a hurry, or when you trip over them for the third time in an hour. Sometimes you don't even consciously register it anymore, because it's become so constant, so expected, so woven into the fabric of daily life, that their presence behind you feels as natural as your own shadow. But one thing is certain, one thing that remains true no matter how you emotionally respond to it. Your dog has chosen to orbit you like the moon around the earth. They've decided that wherever you go, they go. Whatever room you occupy, they occupy. Whatever space you inhabit, they inhabit too, maintaining proximity as if connected by an invisible tether. This isn't just habit, though habit certainly plays a role in reinforcing it. This isn't just learned behavior, though learning shapes all behavior to some degree. This is biology. This is deep evolutionary programming expressing itself in modern domestic life. A 2014 study published in Behavioral Processes, a journal that focuses specifically on the mechanisms underlying behavior in humans and other animals, revealed something striking about dogs and their movement patterns around their owners. They used GPS tracking, time-stamped video footage, and careful observation to map exactly how dogs move through their homes when their owners are present versus when they're alone. And they found that dogs show proximity-seeking behavior most strongly toward their primary attachment figure, the one person in the household they've bonded with most deeply, the one they see as their emotional anchor, the one whose presence matters more than anyone else's. Following you from room to room isn't about food, though dogs are certainly food-motivated and might follow anyone who regularly feeds them. It isn't about routine, though dogs do love predictable patterns and feel comforted by consistent schedules. It's the canine version of a heartbeat, an invisible thread that pulls them toward the person they cannot bear to lose sight of, the person whose absence creates anxiety and whose presence creates calm. Think about it from their perspective for a moment. Put yourself in their mental and emotional position. You're folding laundry, performing a task that's purely functional, repetitive, requiring minimal mental engagement. To you it's a chore, something to get through so you can move on to more interesting activities. Or you're answering emails, your fingers typing messages to people your dog has never met, about topics they'll never understand. Your attention completely